It's time for
DodgerHeads.
high fly ball into right field. Hey, Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 club. Strikes him out. There's a drive. Shohei Ohtani. Freeman hits the ball. She is gone. Start the party, Los Angeles. Your Dodgers have won the World Series.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Bruce Kuntz, as well as special guest Matthew Moreno, who is reporting with us from Los Angeles, but having spent the week in San Diego, so he's going to give us a breakdown on that. So good to have both of you here. Good to have everybody joining us live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter as well. Matt, I'll start with you. I mean, we're going to dive into this Padres series in a minute, but let's just start on the surface level. How enjoyable were your days down in San Diego?
It was good. Wasn't too hot, which is nice. It wasn't too cold, which was nice. So good weather down there in San Diego. Interesting series, obviously, with the swing, how the first game went, kind of the back and forth nature of it, and then how Tuesday night went. I know we're going to get into that, and then with it ending, a Wednesday afternoon game at Petco. So yeah, it was a good time. It was fun. Somehow the Dodgers are, this ragtag bunch is still in first place. Somehow, by hook or by crook, they're making it work.
Yeah, Bruce, on your end, obviously the first time we got to see, one of the key divisional foes for the Dodgers, the Padres. We get the Giants and then the Padres again. But what did you make of the first three games we got between these two teams?
Yeah, it feels still very weird that we had to wait till June to get this matchup, and we still haven't played the Giants yet either. That's about to happen as well. But new schedule aside, I'm glad that they finally got to face off with the Padres, because it doesn't feel like the season has really kicked off until that's happened.
Yeah. Dodgers, by the way, in first place in the National League West, for those wondering. One game over the Giants, who we'll talk about later. 2 games over the Padres, having taken 2 out of 3 in this one. So here's a plan for today. Matt's going to join us for a Dodgers-Padres kind of recap. We're going to talk injury concerns. We got tons of updates from Mark Pryor, Dave Roberts on a bunch of different guys. Emmet Sheehan pitched today, so he's going to be in that conversation as well. And then he will take off for the night, and then Bruce and I will take you home talking Ben Kasparius, talking Dodgers Giants, as well as we've got a prospect corner, a fun guy to talk about tonight. So Matt, let's start with this series. Obviously, the game 1 that goes to extra innings, game 2 that gets punted. Do they care? Do they not care? Was it the right decision? Was it the wrong decision? They come back on Wednesday and they win the game. When you think about this, just big picture, Matt, what do you make of on the field what we saw in these 3 games?
I mean, honestly, it was sort of a reminder of, to me, where the teams have really been the past, 4 years, 5 years, 3 to 5 years now, more or less. Yeah. I mean, if you want to go all the way back to 2020 when they played in the NLDS in the bubble, I mean, although that matchup, I know that it took Cody Bellinger making a great catch. The Dodgers swept, but it felt like some of those games were a little bit closer than maybe a sweep would indicate. But it just, I can't really shake this feeling of the Padres are good enough to sort of be a threat to the Dodgers, but they haven't overtaken them. And we saw it late last year. Last season was the prime opportunity, right? There was that big series late in the year that was basically going to decide the NL West. Yeah. I think it was the final week of the regular season, if I'm remembering correctly. And the Padres lost. They had been hot going into that, and they lost. And they were sort of, I know that they're dealing with injuries right now. No team is impacted by the injuries more than the Dodgers in baseball. And so you looked at what the pitching probables were going to be for that series. And, Dustin May, he gave them 5 innings, but it was not good, good 5 innings, right? Oh man, we lost Bruce there. Yeah, we'll have to get him back on here. Sorry about that, guys. Then, it looked like they were going to have a bullpen game and stuff like that. And so it's just, the Dodgers are still the Dodgers. The Padres are capable of being a threat, but they haven't taken that step forward that everybody, kind of, I think, anticipates or is predicting. I know going into this series, there was a lot of, the Dodgers aren't going to be in first place anymore. And now you look up, the Padres aren't even in second place.
Yeah. Yeah, and you made the point. We talked about this on the preview. Bruce is working on his internet, so he should be back on here pretty soon. But the Dodgers were at a pitching disadvantage in all of these games. I think you could make the case. And so for them to face the guys that they did, and to have, Matt Sauer scheduled for game 2 and Justin Robleski, who didn't even end up pitching in game 3, I think is a pretty remarkable thing. Our guy Bruce is back with us. Welcome, Bruce.
Hey guys.
We solved everything while you were gone. We just knocked it all out of the park.
That's
So
good.
it's good to have you back in here. But, just for the Dodgers to have gone in, they were favorites to win the series. They were like minus 130 to win the series. They were favorites in 2 of the 3 games, ironically, the 2 games that they won. But for them to do this, I'm not saying they faced like the best Padres team that we've ever seen. It's not like, Dylan Cease has not been great, although he seemed to be great against the Dodgers. But Bruce, I think that was the thing that surprised me the most was the Dodgers felt undermanned in this series. Like they felt like the lesser team in many ways. And yet, like it always seems to happen, you sort of wake up 3 days later and you're like, oh, they took 2 out of 3. Who saw that coming,
They felt undermanned. It felt like that not everything was firing on the best cylinders. Teoscar was obviously struggling so bad going in. Then he had the huge homer in the 3rd game of the series and seemed like that he got back to feeling like himself for a second. So like you said, I think that it's no matter what the current situation of the roster is, the current situation of how everybody's playing, they're going to put their best on the line for this series when they're playing the Padres. And it just feels like that game 1 was a great example of like, whenever these 2 teams plays, it's going to be most watched baseball that everybody should be tuning into. So it was fun. This series was fun. I'm glad that the Dodgers were able to take that 3rd game, because it would have felt a lot less like this positive, like, yay, the big rivalry series is out of the way if they dropped that one.
Yeah, Bruce is able to say this series was fun because he didn't have to do a live show after Tuesday night game. I think it's easy when, the 5th inning of that game, you just say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna click this one off. Matt had to be there in San Diego reporting from the stadium. He had to deal with post-game stuff. We had to deal with the post-game show on here. So I don't know. I don't want to speak for you, Matt, but this series was a little less fun having that one wedged in between it.
Yes and no. I mean, I've been doing this for so long that, I mean, whatever. Like those games happen. Honestly, the most annoying aspect of that game was Kike needing to pitch the final, 2 1/3, like coming in the 6th, because it's like, okay, this game is obviously over. You have a position player pitching. Like it's not necessarily, although the Padres didn't do as much damage as I thought they were going to, but it's not like quick outs per se. Like there's hits here and stuff is happening, and so that was a little annoying. Post game, because the Dodgers basically got shut out, like there weren't very many interviews. So for me, like that was a light night of work. And then in terms of the show you and Anthony did, I was able to get you guys some quotes towards the end, and then get to experience the whole Shakey's debacle. So that was entertaining for me. So all in all, it wasn't too bad. I think, Jeff, you, out of the 3 of us sitting here, you definitely had it worst.
Yeah. Bruce, real quick, are you familiar with Shakey's Pizza / are you a fan of Shakey's Pizza?
I've heard of it, but I'm not familiar to the point that I've had it.
Oh, geez.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
you guys
join the club, Bruce. Apparently, this is a crime against humanity.
You guys need some bunch of lunch in your lives.
Yeah. Hey, look, I agree. You send me the buffet, I'm here for it. But I do want to talk. I think it is fair to revisit kind of the conversation we had Tuesday night in light of now how we saw Wednesday play out. And Tuesday night, as I'm sure everybody that's watching this show knows, the Dodgers handled things in a way that, as Dodger fans were familiar with, unfortunately, which was both a bullpen game / a punt. And the context, I think, matters. And I want to have the conversation with a little bit of air to breathe, because I think in real time, the Dodgers were not intending when they woke up on Tuesday morning to lose that game. The Dodgers made a series of decisions as that game played out, based on how things played out the night before, based on how the offense was performing, based on how the pitching was performing. They were taking real-time data on all these things and having to make decisions that, I will say, even for me, doing the post-game show, I probably wasn't totally aware of, like, okay, who exactly was available on Tuesday night in the bullpen, and who, if they pitched on Tuesday, would not have been available. So I want to kind of walk through this. I tried to put some notes in as much of an organized fashion as possible, and then talk about how what they did Tuesday actually had a direct impact on Wednesday. So heading into Tuesday's game, everybody other than Ben Kasparius had either pitched on Sunday night or Monday night. That's important to note. Kirby Yates and Tanner Scott had pitched in both. So Kirby Yates and Tanner Scott from the get-go were not available to pitch at any point on Tuesday. It would have been 3 days in a row. The Dodgers don't do that. So there are a few guys that if they pitched on Tuesday, they would not have been available on Wednesday, most likely. Bonda and Vesia being those two because they had pitched Monday. So if you pitch Bonda or Vesia, they're not going to be available for Wednesday's game. Kopech is more of a question mark. They had used him Tuesday, then Wednesday would have become a back-to-back and 3 and 4 days. Coming off the injured list, would they have put his arm through that? Tough to know. So basically, Yates and Scott not available Tuesday. Bonda, Vesia, probably Kopech. If you use them Tuesday, they are then not available for Wednesday. So Dreyer is the other name in here. He had thrown 28 pitches on Sunday. It would have been 3 and 4, but maybe they would have done that. Trevino, he was the opener. He was going to pitch no matter what. And then Casparius, depending on the plan. So that's the background. So then we get to the game on Tuesday. And Matt, I'm going to start with you. So listen up and pay attention. Keep your notes in order here, all right? Trevino throws a scoreless first. Sauer throws a scoreless second. But Sauer's here to eat. He's here to eat innings. The third, he gives up 3 runs. The fourth, he loads bases with nobody out, but escapes having allowed 1 run. In between the 4th and 5th, Teoscar squanders his second opportunity to potentially score some runs. He has a 2-out at bat with a chance to score. He doesn't get anything. So I think after the 4th is the first slight chance the Dodgers have to make a decision of what they do with Matt Sauer. However, given the state of the bullpen, I don't even think this was a real decision. I think Dave is saying, Sauer, you're the guy. So they throw Sauer back out there. He loads the bases with no outs for the second consecutive inning. For the second consecutive inning, he gets out of that situation having allowed 1 run. And so, Matt, to me, this is where I want to hear you chime in. They're down 5-0 through 5.5 innings. They don't score anything in the top of the 6th. So the bottom of the 6th, I think, is the first decision that Dave Roberts has to make, which is, do you run Matt Sauer out there with a 5-run deficit, knowing your offense has 9 more outs available? And if you go out of the bullpen, then you need to get at least 3 innings, potentially more if you somehow come back in this. To me, this was the first decision. This is when Dave decides basically punt or don't punt. He decides to leave Matt Sauer in. In real time, what were your thoughts on that decision?
I mean, I was fine with it. Like when I say, speaking, I know like we were kind of texting as it was happening. Like when I'm saying the Dodgers are punting, I agree. When I say they don't care about the regular season or a regular season game, it is coming from the point of, like you said, I don't think the Dodgers are going to wake up tomorrow, Friday, when they're playing the Giants and say, we don't care about today's game. Like they go into the night whenever first pitch is with the intent of winning. Yeah. Now, I think they are the most aggressive with, if there's any sign of like, hey, this is going to go sideways. Yeah. They just, okay, like 3-0, 4-0. We haven't done anything, and it's the 5th inning. Like, I know it was 5-0 in this case. If it was 4-0, I think Dave still would have done the same thing of leaving Sauer in the game. I was fine with it. Like, and this might not be popular. Like, I don't really care. Like, when I say that they're punting, like, it's not. It bothered me. I completely disagree in the postseason. Like, playoff games, you cannot give away, and they live to tell about it, to talk about it. So it worked, if you will. But that's when I think punting could become problematic. In the regular season, in June, even against the Padres. And we didn't get this comment from Dave Roberts until after the fact, after they won Wednesday afternoon. Because he was asked again, like, okay, like you spent a lot of time coming into this series, like downplaying it, but now that you won 2 of 3, like, were you just being coy? Like, do you want to kind of revisit your stance? And he said, no. He said, honestly, like, the biggest game was the first one. He said, we win that first one, then it's a matter of figuring out how to just split the next 2 to win the series. So having that like information from Dave Roberts after the fact, he clearly looked at Tuesday and Wednesday, frankly, as playing with house money at that point. And so, yes, like he said, something effective. Dylan Cease was punching out the world, and the Dodgers hadn't done anything. So why is he going to burn all his relievers? So it's fine. And I think for me, the discussion is like, the Dodgers have told us time and time again that they will do that, and they've shown it. Like they will do it. And I think the biggest thing is that, in my opinion, they are probably the quickest team in baseball, and it could just be confirmation bias. It's obviously the team I watch most closely. I think they are quick to, like I said, if it looks like the game is going to be getting away, then okay, hey, then let's whatever. This one's lost. Like let's just start looking ahead.
And Bruce, the thing that Matt kind of touched on that I think is critical, that I don't feel like maybe I did a good enough job talking about on Tuesday, was to emphasize that the Dodgers were making this decision down 5-0 with Dylan Cease pitching well on the other side, their offense falling asleep, and having already been shut out through basically their six halves of the inning. So they only have 3 more innings. So again, sometimes it gets framed, I think, Bruce, like the Dodgers just punted from day one. It's like, no. They had 9 outs left offensively, were down by 5, and had to make all these decisions. So when you factor all that stuff into me, or for you, I should say, like, does that land well? Are you comfortable and perfectly fine with how the Dodgers handled this on Tuesday?
Yeah, totally fine. The Dodgers are a good team, and I think that they never go into games, like Matthew said, they never go into games attempting to lose or accepting that they're going to lose. They went into this game knowing, we already talked about what the bullpen situation was. There was almost nobody available. I think they went into this game knowing Matt Sauer is going to have to eat a lot of innings, and it's going to be up to the offense to pick up the slack and score 10 runs if it has to happen in order to win this game. But they don't go in thinking we are going to lose this game. Yeah. And then I think that once you get to that 6th inning, down by 5, like Matthew said, that's not even a question. I think that this might be something worth debating if it was 3-0, but 4-0, 5-0, that game is pretty much over with the way that Dylan Cease was throwing. And it's certainly not a high enough probability of coming back where it's worth burning the next day. And so it worked exactly like the Dodgers planned for it to work, where they were able to save those arms. And I really don't think that running Kike out there is a controversy like I feel like I've seen it talked about. It's a completely regular thing, and it was a calculated decision that allowed them to win the next day. Once that game was gone, it was gone, and the Dodgers accepted that. And I think that's fine. Like, that allowed them to win the next day. So,
yeah. I think a couple other things, too, with this. One that Bruce hit on, like, I don't understand the outright. I think people are outraged because people were watching the Dodgers and Padres playing. Kike has pitched twice before that this season, and it drew rave reviews because he started wearing the pitching helmet, and it's so funny and this and that. Nobody said anything, and the Dodgers were winning both of those games, 14-2 when he was pitching and wearing the helmet and doing funny things. Miguel Rojas, he caught some flack because he was doing the impersonations in a blowout loss, and that upset, I know, some people. So fine, like I can understand that one a little bit more than all of a sudden this national outrage over Kike having a pitch. There's that, and the other thing too. Like the Dodgers, I think my opinion is that they are aggressive with punting. They are fine sometimes going 3 and out, if you will, to take we're going to talk rivals, and I'm going to bring up college football. So there's a football reference for everybody. Also in this specific case though, Jeff, you mentioned it as we were leading into this discussion. Their pitching staff is decimated, right? Like if Blake Snell or Tyler Glasnow or Tony Gonsolin or Roki Sasaki is available and potentially starting one of those games, you're probably not seeing Kike Hernandez pitch in the 6th inning. Like, and so that's a factor too.
Yeah. Absolutely. The fact that Justin Robleski was scheduled to pitch and has not been very good this season, I think makes a big difference. And so fast forward to Wednesday, they're able to scrap Robleski, who I'm sure most fans were not super thrilled to see pitching in that series. And they get nine innings and 1 earned run allowed. They get a win. Vesia throws a perfect 9th. Again, he would have been down had he pitched on Tuesday night when people wanted him to. Bonda gets out of a bases loaded jam. He would have been down had he been used in Tuesday night's game at all. Those are 2 guys for sure we would have pitched on Tuesday and would not have been available Wednesday. They get some of the biggest outs of the game. Kasparius throws 4 innings. Again, if he had been used, he wouldn't have been available in that game. And then Kopech, I wish he was down. I don't know. Like, he was pretty bad in that game. But the point is it worked. And to your point, Matt, the Dodgers, I'd have to think about if I agree that they are the most aggressive at punting games. But and you're not a nerd stats guy. I'm a nerd stats guy. I think Bruce is a little bit. Like, they just played the numbers. They say, okay, we're down 5-0 with Dylan Cease. What are our actual chances of winning? Like, if we pitch Bonda and Vesia and Kopech to get us through this game, what are our actual chances of winning? They're not great. Okay, but how would that change our odds on Wednesday? Oh, wow, this would significantly impact. That's 3 innings from Robleski instead of innings from Bonda, Vesia, and Kopech. Like, that's worse. So why don't we just put all our eggs in the basket of the game that we actually have a far greater chance of winning? And guess what? It works. And it might not have. There was no guarantee it was going to work, but it did work. And so, Matt, I don't know. I think it played exactly as Dave Roberts was hoping it would. And so there's vindication on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, and that is also a slippery slope. Like, because had the Dodgers lost on Wednesday, I still would have said, like, I wouldn't have believed that it made sense to then turn to, all the high leverage guys when you were down 5-0 Tuesday. I just would have said, like, all right, you lost 2 of 3. You're getting 4 against the Padres next week. Like, instead of splitting that, maybe now you need to win 3 of 4. Like, figure that out later. I think if you want to sort of get critical, if you will, maybe there's a scenario, and who even knows if it works out. But if I'm assuming internally they knew Justin Robleski wasn't going to start Wednesday afternoon. Like they knew that by the time
that was
Tuesday's...
more of a plan B than it probably a plan A. Like they presented it like he's pitching, and it's like he's pitching if we need to get to the bullpen guys on Tuesday, which they ended up.
So like if you weren't going to pitch Robleski on Wednesday, like maybe use him at some point Tuesday night, because then he has the potential to give you that length to then still cover the bullpen, right? And so like that's the ones. But again, like it had they didn't, and what like they won 2 of 3, and had they lost 2 of 3, I still wouldn't be sitting here pulling my hair out. I know that that's not a popular opinion. Based on some of the comments I saw when you and Anthony were on, some of the comments tonight, and I am seeing. Look, like we didn't mention the offense. Like the offense they had their opportunities and they came up empty, and so they need to be held accountable too.
And to be clear, Matt, not everybody came up empty on Tuesday night offensively. Right. Because there was one gentleman that was just doing his part, getting an RBI. Michael Conforto. True. Nobody wants to talk about it, Matt. But there was like an 18-hour stretch. He's the only guy with an RBI in 2 games. So
that's what I was about to say.
The entire offense was not asleep. Let's just put that out there.
My apologies to Michael Conforto. He's the only player that had an RBI in back-to-back games against the vaunted Padres.
That's what I'm talking about. Bruce, close the door on this Tuesday, Wednesday, and sort of looking backwards, how you feel about it.
If this was a mid-May series against the Nationals, we wouldn't even be talking about it. Yep. Like it exasperated the point and everybody's frustration that it was against the Padres. But we've seen the Dodgers, they go through the regular season and they make the decisions that are the best decisions, and they don't let who they're playing or the emotions of it affect that they knew that they had a very low chance of winning that game on Tuesday. So there's no reason to burn the high leverage guys. I don't think the Dodgers are the only team that would have done it this way by any stretch. And this was the right way to do it, whether they won on Wednesday or not. They set themselves up to win on Wednesday. And that's the thing that matters.
Speaking of the Padres, there's a lot of a conversation that's been happening over the last few days. And Matt, you were down in San Diego, so I'll start with you about whether or not this is a rivalry. Are the Padres and Dodgers official rivals? And what's interesting is the Dodgers clubhouse, it sounds like, Matt, is divided on this. Dave Roberts has changed his view. In 2021, he said the answer was no. Now he started the year after 2022 and on. He started to refer to this as a rivalry. Players in answering questions have referred to the Padres as rivals. And yet Max Muncy went on foul territory and basically said you have one rival. And there, you might have the elements of a rivalry here with San Diego, but we have one rival, and it's the San Francisco Giants. So, Matt, I'll give you the floor first. Are the Padres and Dodgers officially rivals?
The Padres and Dodgers are a rivalry,
but not rival.
I don't know if the Padres are a rival. If that makes sense.
It doesn't. It makes no sense at all to me. Can you define the term for me?
It's so, I mean, to me, I think I don't know how to explain it. To me, they have become a rivalry.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think if you want it to be a rival, like both sides need to like really care about it and be intense about it. And I don't know if we get that from the Dodgers just yet. We have from the Padres for year in and year out. Like we've seen it during the regular season, during the playoffs, like all that stuff. Muncy's comments were interesting. Like I get what he's saying, but to me, Jeff, like you, like big college football fan, Bruce, I don't know. We haven't had a chance to discuss college football or not, so I'm not 100% sure there. But like Jeff, Oregon's rivals are Oregon State and Washington, right? Like,
yeah.
In some sense, for SC, it's UCLA and Notre Dame, and I think like for myself, for locals, like the UCLA SC one probably means a little bit more, whereas maybe for like alumni, like the Notre Dame, like that one, like is historic and this and that, and even though Lincoln Riley's potentially trying to end that, but you'll give me time another day to go on that tangent. So I can see where it's a rivalry, but again, like not necessarily a true rival the way I think Muncy was sort of explaining it.
Bruce, where do you stand? Because Muncy, I think, makes an argument that you kind of have to wrestle with, which is, can a team have multiple rivals? If the answer is yes, then the Padres are definitely a rival. If the answer is no, then they're definitely not a rival, because nobody's going to argue that the Padres are ahead of the Giants in any sort of pecking order here. So where do you stand on the idea of having more than one rival?
Yeah, Jeff, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think Muncie's point here has less to do with whether the Dodgers and Padres are rivals and more just what the word rivals means.
Yeah.
What rivals means to me, I think the Dodgers and Padres absolutely are a rivalry, and they've been a rivalry since 2022 when the Padres established that they can beat the Dodgers too and knock the Dodgers out of the playoffs. I think that was the point that it became two-sided and it wasn't just a big brother, little brother thing. I think that the amount of energy that surrounds when the Dodgers and Padres play, the amount of coverage that it gets, just I think what we were just talking about illustrates it. Everything is put under a microscope. All the decisions are magnified. And I think that all has the elements of a rivalry because both fan bases care. I think the Dodgers fan base cares about beating the Padres so that they can claim it's not a rivalry and so that they can say we're still superior. And the Padres want to still, they act like little brothers, whether they've won in the past or not. But I think it absolutely is a rivalry. Like you said, it's not on the level of the Giants rivalry. But when I think about the opponents that matter, the Padres are absolutely in that group. And I think the Giants and Padres are the two main ones that I would certainly consider rivals.
See, so Bruce just explained it's a rivalry, but the Padres are not a rival. And I think the other part of this conversation too is like, where do the Yankees fall in all of this, right? Like, I wasn't old enough to remember, all those World Series matchups decades ago. But I know in some people, like, that is a rival, right? Like, it's when they met in the World Series last year, it was, like this historic rivalry is renewed. And I think that one also is heavily based in LA and New York type thing as cities.
Yeah.
But there is like in some sense, like, do the Dodgers have three rivals? Do they have one rival and two rivalries? Jeff, I'm just asking the questions here. You need to give the people the answers.
Well, and none of us have even mentioned the team that I think most people hate more than any of the rest, which is the Houston Astros. And so how we define like a rival, like if rival was who do I hate the most, then I would say the Padres are definitely a team that I don't like and that I actively root against. And I hope they lose all the time. And I care more when the Dodgers are playing them. And the Giants would fall into the same category. The Astros would fall into the same category. I'm with you. Couldn't care less about the Yankees. We'll see if that changes and if there's sort of, a World Series matchup that we see multiple times. But I do think the question of that Max Muncy gets us back to is, can you have more than one rival? I think helps me understand, Matt, the Japanese proverb that you shared with us at the beginning of this video of how someone could be a rival. What was it? It's a rivalry, but not a rival, something like that, which is, it sounds like you're saying you can only have one rival, and the Padres are not at the top of that mountain. That belongs to the Giants, and it's never changing. But if we're talking about teams where there is a heightened level of passion and a heightened level of care in beating that other team for one reason or another, then the Padres fall into that category. Is that a fair assessment, Matt, of what you're getting at?
I guess right now, but I could see the Padres becoming like if we go another 5-7 years of what the last 5 years have been, like, I think at that point, like, it is legitimate, right? Because like Bruce said, like, there is also the fan aspect, and Dodger fans will tell you until they're blue in the face how annoying Padre fans are. Padre fans will tell you, they'll scream from the top of their lungs how annoying Dodger fans are. So like that animosity is already there. I think if they keep meeting in the playoffs, like that will then kind of fester amongst some of the players a little bit, at least on both sides. It has, I think, for one team. I won't specify which. I'll let everybody guess which one I'm alluding to.
Yeah.
But I think it can get there. I mean, it's fun. Like, more than anything, it's just fun. Like, and but like I said, I come from, like, I'm Jeff, like you, I'm a big college football fan, and like schools have like multiple rivals, and it's not like this taboo thing of like, well, wait a minute, you can only have one rival. And like, even in SC's case, like, when Jim Harbaugh started, getting Stanford up on the rise, like, they sort of became a rival / thorn in SC's side. And so like it can kind of fade. But
well, and Bruce, you're a little younger. Like, I'm wondering if somebody's like, if there's like a 16-year-old Dodgers fan out there, that person from the age that they started paying attention to the Dodgers has never seen a competitive Giants team, basically. Right. I mean, the 1 year, right, that they played. But other than that, they didn't grow up with the Barry Bonds years and all of that stuff. And so generationally, I think this is probably different too.
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit that I grew up in NorCal, so I was predisposed to disliking the Giants from the tough skin that Giants fans gave me for my entire life. But 2021 really made me into a Giants hater that I hadn't been before, because I recognized there was a pennant race going on, the Dodgers versus the Giants. There was something there. And I think that Matthew, to your point of rivalry versus rival, I think that you can, if I'm playing into that, you can define rival as a team that regardless of what players are on that team, regardless of recent history, those teams will hate each other. I think that if you forecast 10 years, at least me, I've already started to move on from the Astros. I don't really care anymore. If you forecast 10 years and if the Dodgers and Padres have still been going at it like this, then I think they could get to that point. I don't know if they are yet. So I think that I've talked myself into agreeing with you, Matthew, on that idea of rivalry versus rival. Go. It's a fiery rivalry right now, and it's trying to get to that next stage and become a permanent rival.
This is really just like 12 minutes of us verbally processing how to understand what Matt couldn't even put into words. But now I do think I get it. Like, a rival is permanent. It's forever. Like the Giants and Dodgers, we will hate the Giants, period, no matter what. Whereas the Padres, I think we can all imagine a world 5-10 years from now where like a rivalry is like, hey, in this 10-year stretch, there was a rivalry between these two teams, but it may not have existed before and it may not exist after. And look, if the Padres go back to being fine and Machado leaves and Tatis leaves, and all of a sudden, like I could see a world where 5-10 years from now, I don't care about the Padres.
Yeah.
To Bruce's point, I will always hate the Giants. So Matt, have we now explained maybe the thoughts inside your head and the feelings inside of your heart?
And that concludes today's educational segment.
There you
we
go.
got there. We landed the plane, Jeff, as you like to say. We got there.
Perfect. I love it. So, I'm curious to hear. People are going to have an absolute field day with that. I mostly want to know, like, how people would rank the team they most care about beating right now. Like, they're about to play the Giants and they're about to play the Padres. If I said you could win one of those series and lose the other, there's a 1-game difference in the standings. So from a standings perspective, it's not really going to make a difference. Who do you most want to beat in the next 7 days? Is it taking 2 out of 3 from the Giants, or is it taking 3 out of 4 from the Padres? Let us know below. I'm fascinated to hear the answers to that one. All right. Let's shift gears. Let's talk injury real quick. And Matt, as I mentioned, you were in San Diego covering the team from the stadium, and you got a chance to talk to Mark Pryor, and Dave Roberts had some thoughts as well about a bunch of guys that are injured starting pitchers. And so we're going to play a game where I'm going to ask you to give me a number on each of these guys from a 1 to 10 scale. 1 is, I am not worried at all. 0% concern. 10 is, I'm pretty sure this guy's out for the season. And they may not have announced it yet, but I have no hope that I'm ever going to see them. Okay. So 1 is, I expect them back in the next couple of weeks. 10 is, we'll see you in 2026. So we'll kind of start in the shallow end of the pool. Let's start with Emmet Sheehan, who is the guy that is, in theory, the closest to returning. I had some beautiful stats for Emmet Sheehan. Coming into today, 8 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned, 1 walk, 14 strikeouts. Just absolutely spotless. Unfortunately, he pitched today, and it did not go well. 3 1/3, 6 hits, 4 earned, no walks, 7 strikeouts, 2 home runs allowed. So I'll start with you, Matt. Dave had said prior to this start that it could just be one more start, and then Emmet Sheehan would be back. 0 to 10. How concerned are you about the injury that Emmet Sheehan is working his way back from?
So, spoiler alert, I'm not going to do 0 or 1 on any of these because there's
the Dodgers.
Yes, it's the Dodgers, and these guys aren't robots, although even robots break down in technology, as we saw today. Like
Ohtani might be.
Maybe a bunch of websites were down today because servers went out. So, but with Sheehan, I mean, it's like a 2. Like I think he's doing fine. Like I know his rehab start tonight didn't go well, but he's been fine. Frankly, he's been out exceeding expectations leading into tonight. Like a guy that hasn't pitched in that long to be kind of as sharp and as encouraging as he was through his first couple outings, like is a surprise. So this is more in line with like it might be a little bit of a roller coaster. So I mean, it's a 2. I know Dave Roberts had said that, maybe he makes one more start, gets to 4 innings, then is back with us. Sheehan not getting to 4 innings, and I think Ben Casparius looking like he's going to be in the rotation sort of delays that timeline, but I still don't think it'll be too long. And yeah, I mean it's a 2, no real concern there.
Bruce, 2 sound good to you?
I'm going with a 3 here, just a tiny bit up, because I think there's always some sort of doubt in my mind working back from Tommy John and getting back to the big leagues, especially for a guy like Sheehan, who had not fully established himself as a big leaguer before he got hurt. He had a really, really good run to end that last season that he was healthy in 2023, but he was still a rookie, barely graduated prospect status, and I think there's always going to be some volatility with that. This is not to say I'm an Emmet Sheehan denier. I am huge on this guy, was before he got hurt, have stayed that way all the way through. I can't wait till he's back, and I think that he is really a stud, but I always just have a little bit of like, let's wait and see. Let's make sure things are good before I lay the Dodgers season on the line for Emmet Sheehan.
Do you think, Bruce, if I'm giving you by the end of June, it's June 12th as we sit here, do you think he's back pitching for the Dodgers before the end of the month?
I'll say yes, simply because of the situation everybody else or the rotation is in, and he's the closest guy. I don't think they'd bring him back this fast if that wasn't the case. We just talked about Sheehan last week, and I basically said I thought they were going to give him plenty of time, if not the entire rehab assignment, even extended a little bit for the Tommy John provisional that they can do. Doesn't sound like they're going to do that, and I think that definitely has something to do with just the state that they're in and how they need starting pitching now and good starting pitching, and Emmet Sheehan is that. So I think he'll be back before the end of June, and the strikeouts have been good. The lack of walks has been really good too. I always worry about coming back from TJ and not having the command that guys had before, and that hasn't looked like the case for him. So I think he'll be back by the end of the month, and hopefully it won't be too bumpy of a process to get reintroduced to the bigs.
10 games in 10 days starting tomorrow. So if you're going to need starting pitching help for a rotation that likes to spread guys out, who knows? We'll see if he makes an appearance in there. Let's move on to the guy that is probably next on this list as far as proximity to the major leagues. That would be a gentleman by the name of Shohei Ohtani. Through 3 simulated innings on Tuesday, 44 pitches, 6 strikeouts, a walk, and a hit. Dave Roberts surprised everybody, I think, Matt, after the game by saying there was a, quote, north of 0 chance that Ohtani pitches in a game before the All-Star break. I speculated it would be south of 10, but it's north of 0. And so 0 to 10, Matt, 0% concern or 0 concern versus 10 concern. Where are you at with Ohtani?
This one is a 3 just because it is his second elbow surgery that he's coming back from. That being said, like I've been able to see now his last 2 times facing hitters, and he was very sharp in San Diego. Like it was the best. And it was out of the 2 that I've seen, it was definitely the best. I think even hearing from Mark Pryor and Dave Roberts, like it was the best that they have seen him, if you include his first time facing hitters out at Citi Field. And it wasn't just like, I think he finished with like 6 strikeouts or something, but it was also just the command of his pitches and kind of the break to them and things like that. That was really encouraging. And so that's good. Like I said, just because of his, it is a second elbow surgery he's coming back from. It is a 3 for me, but not no real concern. And I even think, if you look at the Dodgers schedule, first week of July, I think there's a White Sox team mixed in there. If you're looking for a soft landing spot, that could be it.
Well, that was, I believe, Ohtani's first time facing live hitters. Blake and I were down in spring training, and I believe it was against the White Sox. And no, I might be confusing that with Sasaki. That might have been Sasaki's first appearance versus hitters.
Yeah, on the back.
Because Ohtani he hasn't faced hitters since. That was because he gave up
that was the one where he gave up a first pitch home run or something like that, and everybody hated me for tweeting it. Yeah. So Matt bumped it up 1 number there, Bruce. Where you gave a 3 to Emmet Sheehan. Where are you at with Ohtani?
I'm breaking Matthew's rule of no 0s and 1s, and I'm going 1.
Wow.
Because I think that it's only not a 0 because he isn't going to be able to go on a full normal rehab assignment and do their regular box checking, but they're doing it fine with the plan that they have in place now. And Shohei Ohtani's body is apparently capable of doing that, throw a full simulated game in the morning and then still hit at night and be completely fine because he's an alien and he's always going to do things nobody else can do. The other place, I think that he's looked very sharp. He's had so much time compared to where a normal pitcher's rehab would be. It's been like 2 years, practically a year and a half, not quite 2 years, but it's been a very, very extended time of rest where if he's not fresh now, he would never be. So I think that helps my outlook. He sounds like he's looked good in the rehab outings. And then ultimately, all said and done, if something goes wrong, then he can just ditch pitching and be an MVP DH. So I just don't really worry too much about Shohei Ohtani's ability to contribute to the team.
And by the way, if you missed the video of Shohei Ohtani facing hitters the other night, it is up on the Dodger Blue 1958 YouTube page. So as soon as we are done, go check that out. The one hit was like a ground ball up the middle or something like that.
Yeah, so. a little bit of controversy on that. There was some debate amongst the writers over would Mookie get to that or not. Yeah. And I'm a big Mookie shortstop believer, so I think he's absolutely scooping that up.
So some would say the biggest Mookie shortstop believer, Matt. Yeah. Okay. Let's move from the low numbers to the high numbers with these next 3 gentlemen. All right. Blake Snell. I think we're going north of 0, by the way, on these next 3 guys, to quote Dave Roberts. Blake Snell, guys, 2 weeks pain-free. Okay. Tuesday threw his first bullpen since April. 15 fastballs, 70% intensity. Reportedly went well. He's going to throw 20 pitches off a mound tomorrow if all things stay according to plan. Mark Pryor was quoted as saying, Matt, his arm looks, for the first time probably all year, free and easy. Matt, he's been hurt all year. That was the issue. He's been hurt all year. So give me a number, 0 to 10.
I'm only going a 4 on this one.
Wow.
Yeah, I
One
think
spot ahead of Ohtani.
Yeah, some of it is maybe hearing from Snell himself. Like I think he has been forthright now after the fact, like admitting, yes, he pushed himself, and then not only one to pitch through the shoulder issue, which I think he disclosed it to the Dodgers early on. Which if he did, like I'm not sure why like they let him make those starts, considering how the team like they're typically conservative with injuries. Like okay, like we're just gonna take care of it now, and we'd rather just lose you for a month instead of what it's become. And two, hearing that he's not dealing with any more pain, like it is encouraging. Like they kept telling us that the MRIs and stuff weren't showing any structural damage, so I am taking that.
Wow.
I don't think Dave Roberts would outwardly lie, and we were told twice.
Yeah.
So
he might accidentally lie, but twice I think is fair. Somebody would have corrected him the first time, and the second time he would have been lying. I'm shocked, Bruce. I thought this number for sure was north of 5. So I don't mean to influence your own number here, but 2 weeks pain-free and 15 fastballs at 70% intensity. Matt's back on the wagon.
I'm going up to a 6, not full-blown SOS, but I think it's
that for Glasnow or Sasaki potentially.
I think it's certainly concerning because to know that he had that shoulder going in, tried to pitch through it. Now it's been like such a slow burn of maybe he's ready to start ramping up and then no. And I just don't trust that even if he's feeling great right now, that it's not going to be another one of those situations where he wakes up tomorrow and all of a sudden it's like there's soreness again, shut it down. Yeah. It's just worrisome with how long this has taken, and not to say that they have to be connected at all, but I just think back to some other times recently, like Evan Phillips, they left him off the playoff roster, and that wasn't shoulder, it was elbow, but spent the entire offseason saying, like, let's try to avoid surgery, and then didn't. And I just feel like that isn't it's a non-zero, that this could just be like such an extended thing that eventually it gets to a point. So obviously, like I'm saying, not saying that that's what's going to happen or that that's even on the table. I just worry with how long this has taken and how many times it's felt like that there's little setbacks and the complete lack of a structured timetable for return. I never like that. Just, we'll see kind of, it feels less stable ground. So I think he'll be back. I think he'll be okay. It's good that he's throwing pain-free and can actually start the process now, but it's taken so long that there's certainly concern for me.
Matt, I do want to say, I like the optimistic part of you. I like the fact that you're starting to believe Dodger medical reports. This is a new Matthew Moreno, and I like this version of you. Okay, you're hoping for the best here.
Yeah, I spend a few days in San Diego around the team, and I come back a changed man.
Okay, we'll see how optimistic you are, because next on the list is a gentleman by the name of Tyler Glasnow. Through a bullpen in Los Angeles on Tuesday, Dave said he was really encouraged. Mark Pryor said he really has been feeling good. The ball has been coming out really good, was kind of the summary there. So through a bullpen in LA Tuesday, Matt, 0 to 10, where are we at with the Glass Man?
I'm going to go 6.5.
Okay.
And a lot of this is predicated on, I think he can and will come back. I just don't know if he'll stay healthy.
Yeah.
So it's not so much like the actual injury window we're in right now. It's more of just the rest of the season type thing, like his availability for that. So yeah, 6.5, maybe 6.75. Like definitely closer to 7 than 6.
Okay, now we're getting into some nerd stats, Matt, in multiple decimals. Jeez Louise, I think the average on the chat, if I include the 1 trillion that TQT just put in there, I think we're north of 6.75 if we average the chat out. Bruce, you were 6 on Snell. Where are we at on Glasnow?
I was bouncing between 7 and 8, so I'm going to go decimals too and just split it. 7.5. We're 3/4 of the way up the scale. And it's for a similar reason to Matthew. I think that Glasnow seems like he's tracking where he'll be back. This shoulder isn't going to take him out for the year, but once he's back, like what's to say he's not going to pull an oblique or elbow or whatever it is. It just seems like
his cleats, maybe,
whatever they do, man. It just feels like that he can't They haven't solved the equation to keep him on the field and healthy. And there was so much talk coming into the year that they had finally figured it out, and he made changes to the delivery, and he was feeling like it was so low effort now, and all those things that seemed like they were very confident, and then it fell apart very fast. So I just don't know. I don't have any real faith that Tyler Glasnow knows how to stay healthy, or that they know how to keep him healthy. So even once he gets back from this, it's just like every start, I'm going to be holding my breath and praying that the trainer's not walking out there in the third inning.
Yeah, well, and keep in mind, for him to go through this entire rehab process, he needs about 2 more months of staying healthy just to get through whatever they need to do before he gets into the Dodger uniform. So I'd probably be the 8 side of that one. But let's go one more here, and we're going to talk Roki Sasaki. We got the most information, Matt, this week that we've gotten on Roki Sasaki in a long time. In some ways, Mark Pryor saying not a whole lot to report on Roki. I think right now we've got to get him in a position where he feels confident in his ability to throw the baseball. That was a real quote. He's been throwing still just light catch, not a lot of work other than light catch right now. He's pain-free, but hasn't gotten to the point where he can put enough intensity to push forward in his progression. I'm not sure how you can be pain-free and also unable to push the intensity, but he's not confident in his ability to throw a baseball, Matt. So 6.75, I imagine we're going north of that for Mr. Sasaki. So give me a number here. Remember, 10 is we're never seeing him again in 2025.
It's somewhere between a 7 and an 8.
Okay.
I'll do 7 just to try and be optimistic. You know, I know you.
I think this version of you.
I think you were with me last year in terms of being really concerned about Yamamoto as he was going through his injury issues, and I wasn't convinced that he was going to be back. So I have shades of feeling that way with Sasaki, also just based on like not only what Mark Pryor said, but previous comments by Dave Roberts, like when being asked, like, you know, what caused the shoulder impingement, what's kind of going on, he basically said, like, we don't know. Like, he kind of gave a non-answer answer type thing. But he said that Sasaki had gotten to the point where he was physical, and that how you want to, like, what that means exactly, I'm not 100% sure. But the fact that he is still only, like you said, pain-free, because Dave Roberts has been telling us also for multiple weeks, like this wasn't the first time we heard that he's pain-free. So at least 7 to 10 days ago was the first like report of he is pain-free now. And that's certainly encouraging. But to hear that he's still pain-free, but like you said, like relaying Mark Pryor's quote, like kind of stuck in light catch mode, basically. Well, then what's what's going on there? And so I might have talked myself up to maybe closer to 8, but I'll just leave it at 7 for now. Because Yamamoto came back last year, so I'm hoping that Sasaki, you know, as much as there's reason, maybe some red flags, that he does, you know, get back on the mound.
Bruce?
Yeah, I'm up at a 9. I'm very concerned here about Sasaki because I think the injury not only is, I think it's a very real possibility he's not back this year on the mound, but I think there's also a very real possibility that if he does make it back, he's still going to be bad. He was bad. And I think that the injury clearly is playing into the fastball just being terrible. Like his fastball was one of the worst pitches in baseball, not just fastballs, one of the worst pitches in baseballs. And that was not something I expected to be the case this year. I think like the quotes you just relayed from Pryor, there sounds like that there's a lot in this situation that they just don't know what's wrong. And it feels like a continuation of like the World Baseball Classic. Roki Sasaki was still throwing triple digits and was best pitching prospect in the world consensus. His last year in Japan wasn't as good. There was velocity drop off. He wasn't healthy the whole time. And they were starting to be a little bit of doubters of like, what's going on here? Is he going to need to get a full surgery? And then now he gets over here and it just seems like it was a downhill slope where we're now bottomed out. And I don't know how they're going to rebound. And it seems like that it makes some sort of sense to me, or at least that it's possible that there's going to need to be a major surgery in order for that rebound to happen. Because if there's something in the shoulder, his elbow's been a problem too. It seems like if he's not healthy, that's playing into whatever mental stuff is going on now too. And confidence wise, it just seems like there's so much going on here with performance and injury, and it's all linked to whatever the injury is. And I don't really have any faith that, or maybe any faith is the wrong way to put it, but I don't have any full confidence that he'll be back and he'll be good. I just can't say that I believe that's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Matt, if I gave you choices and said you have to choose either he pitches or doesn't pitch again in 2025, which would you pick?
man. I would say next question.
I would say, for me, I would be surprised, Bruce, if he pitches again this year. That's where I'm at with Sasaki. Based on this update, based on the performance we saw from him, keep in mind that there's a decent chance if and when he is actually available, he would then have to crack back into a roster that's approaching the most significant time of the season. And look, nobody ever believes the Dodgers are going to be healthy, but there is a world where they have enough pitching and they aren't desperate for him either, So if you gave me the choice of he pitches for the Dodgers again or not, and I had to choose one, I would choose not, Bruce.
I'll say before. Sorry, go ahead, Bruce.
Like Jeff was saying, I just don't. I don't know if he's going to be able to be back and be good. And I think that I think the Dodgers manage everybody the same, and they don't let these things play in all the way. But there also is the factor that he's on a rookie contract and he's not making big money, and there's not the external pressure like there is with Snell and Glasnow of the big contract expected to be the ace, like get back immediately. They're going to be very careful with Roki, and there's just so many variables that it's hard to predict where anything goes.
I'm Jeff. I'm notorious and respected around these parts for bringing balance to our shows. I'm outnumbered tonight because we have obviously an odd number of us on the show tonight, so it's not going to be fully balanced, but I will try to bring some and say I think Sasaki does pitch again this year.
Lori with the super chat. Sasaki's issue is arm drag from overextension, which is hurting his velocity, command, and timing. Blake Harris agreed. After seeing data likely contributed to 2024-25 shoulder injuries, needs attention. I'm not sure about any of this, Lori, so I'm not saying you're wrong, and I think that's an L. Maybe if that's an I apologize. I can never tell on these things. But what I would say is, I just default to the Dodgers. If this is true, I don't think the Dodgers don't know this. And so, they had a whole presentation they made to this guy about why his velocity was down, all that kind of stuff. And so I just default to, if this was true, the Dodgers probably already have addressed it or are in the process of addressing it. Or option B is it's not a thing. So, Bruce, I don't know if you've come across this before and have thoughts on it, but that's kind of my default position.
I haven't seen that specific issue, but I agree with you that if that is what it is, then they're aware. And the thing that worries me about how cloudy this whole situation is I'm suspicious that they don't know. And like Dave Roberts, has said, they don't know exactly what's going on. I think that it could be a multitude of things. It could be injury. It could be mechanics. They were working on different mechanical things before he went on the IL. So it seems like there's a bunch of things that are wrong. And I think this differs from Matthew, you brought up Yamamoto last year. He at least was very good when he was on the field. And there was an understanding that the Dodgers are much better when he's healthy. And so they needed to get him back to win the World Series. Roki is not in that place at all right now. I really, when we talk about the guys that are getting back, obviously I would definitely take Snell, Glasnow, Shohei back over him. I'd take Emmet Sheehan right now for sure. I think the performance is better. And then Ben Casparius in the rotation feels like that'll be better too. There's so many.
No, keep going, Bruce. Keep going. There's one name you haven't said yet. It's a gentleman that has a sub-3 ERA in his last 3 appearances. He's the all-time legend, Clayton
Kershaw.
Kershaw. That's right.
Yeah.
He definitely meant to say Clayton Kershaw.
There's the track record. Roki doesn't have a track record of MLB success, and Kershaw's last 2 starts have looked better. So cool. I just don't see Roki as a guy that's going to help the Dodgers win the World Series this year, and I hope I'm proven wrong. But it just seems like they're in a medium zone right now. Of there's a lot of things wrong. They don't know what it is, and they're not close to a solution. Is what I'm worried about.
Jeff, really quick before I sign off and you guys finish with all the nerd stuff on Ben Kasparius and all that. We need your numbers on these guys.
On all the guys that we just talked about?
Yeah.
I'll go backwards. Sasaki's at least a 9. Glasnow, I'll say 8. Snell, 6. Ohtani, 2. Emmet Sheehan, I'll round up to 1. I just think he might be in the rotation next week. So, unless we hear about an injury tonight, it would basically be a 0. So, that's where I got. So, on the more pessimistic side than Matt, which is a new thing. So, Matt, we appreciate you hopping in. Again, thanks for all your coverage from down in San Diego. Again, check out the Dodger Blue 1958 YouTube page when this show is done. Matt got a ton of content for us while he was down there. So, always fun to be able to have a credentialed guy in the press box over from DodgerBlue.com. So, Get some rest, Matt. I know that's a long commute down to San Diego, so we appreciate you.
Yeah, I'll try.
Okay.
Thanks,
We'll
guys.
talk to you soon, Matt. Bruce and I are sticking around. We're going to talk about a couple other things. We got some super chats, so let's dive in. I see yours, D-Nation Life. We're going to get to yours later, which you asked about. Justin says, if Texas is sellers, what are your thoughts on Jacob deGrom? Obviously a familiar name here, but if the Rangers are indeed sellers, Bruce, is this a guy that you'd be interested at all?
He's been very good, but it depends on, like, are the Dodgers just going to continue to stockpile the most injury-prone pitching staff of all time and just play the guessing game of a few of them have to be healthy, right? That would be what this would have to be. He's been good, so like price is always a factor. If the price made sense for them to go get another guy that if he's healthy he's an ace, then sure, I certainly wouldn't be completely opposed to it, but it would have to be a palatable price because I would not by any stretch overpay for Jacob deGrom because he's just another one of these guys that they already have a lot of question marks in terms of health.
Yeah, I'm with you. It sounds so stupid to say. I just have to believe, based on the injury timelines of these guys with Snell and with Glasnow and Ohtani, all coming back so close to the actual trade deadline, I don't know if the Dodgers will have enough information to actually make a move for a starter, because they would have to find out that like two of these guys are out for the season, I think, between now and the deadline in order to make a move. So, Justin, we appreciate the super chat, though. That's I think it's a fair question because, again, to your point, I mean, I look at deGrom's Savant page. There's a lot of red on that page. WHIP under 1, 0.92 WHIP, 2.12 ERA. Top 70% in basically every category. So good stuff there. Here's a fun question for you, Bruce, because you're the prospect guy. Jay Teaser wants to know, if you could trade for Skeens, is anyone untouchable? And if so, who?
Definitely not. Like, without even, I've thought about this a couple times already because there was Twitter posting going on about it, but I didn't even have to think about it. The answer is no. There's no such thing as a player of Paul Skeens' caliber this early in his big league free agency control period. Like, he's not even at arbitration yet. And that's why I believe that there's no chance the Pirates trade him. But if we theoretically say they would, then the only way you'd even get to the negotiating table is if you pull up your MLB Pipeline top 30 prospects list and just open your wallet and say, choose who you want. And then maybe you can keep talking to us. So Paul Skeens is the kind of untradeable talent that you absolutely are not able to say. Roman Anthony for the Red Sox would not be untouchable if they were talking about Paul Skeens. So that kind of gives the perspective. There's nobody untouchable in this kind of trade talk.
This is a stupid conversation, so I'm going to preface this by saying that Skeens is not available. He's not going to be available, and so it's dumb. I'm looking at your preseason prospect rankings. You had Sasaki 1, Rushing 2, DePaula 3, Hope 4, Jackson Ferris 5. Are all 5 of those guys, like, take all 5 of them for Paul Skeens?
That's where I think you could start to wonder how many top prospects you're going to part with, but I think the answer is yes. Maybe not Sasaki because he was conditional on the list anyway. Yeah. So maybe not Sasaki, but you could go through the rest of the top 5.
Rushing, DePaula, Hope, and Ferris. If they said we would do that for Paul Skeens, then you're running that one in.
Yeah, send it to the league offices. Get Paul Skeens to Los Angeles. I'll drive to Pittsburgh and drive him back if that's what it takes.
There you go. I like it. Jay Teaser, thank you for the question. Hawaiian Kira, can we see Ben C, Kasparius in the rotation more than out from the bullpen? Is this more than likely to happen? Hawaiian Kira, what a fantastic question, because next on our list is the report that Ben Kasparius appears set to join the starting rotation for the Dodgers, Bruce. This is something that a lot of people have been clamoring for, and we've talked about on this show, the caveat being, how are they going to build him up while keeping him on the major league roster? Obviously, Ohtani can do it whenever he wants to or feels like it or is available before the game. But for Kasparius, you basically have to treat him like a starting pitcher while keeping him at the major league level. So he's only pitching every 5 or 6 days while building up every 5 or 6 days, 3 innings, 4 innings, 5 innings, etc. He threw 4 innings yesterday, 3 hits, 2 walks, 1 earned run, 2 strikeouts on 54 pitches. The assessment, I would say, was that he was solid, fine, but not amazing. And that's not a reflection of him as a starter. Just yesterday, he walked in a run, and if not for Andy Pages, probably would have given up another. Dave said that he planned for 3 and that Kasparius pushed to go 4. So what are your thoughts on this idea that it appears Ben Kasparius is going to join the Dodgers starting rotation.
Yeah, I feel like a bit of an idiot because a couple things we just talked about last week are going the other direction, where I said I thought they were going to extend Emmet Sheehan's rehab pretty much as far as they could. That doesn't look like it's happening. I said I thought Casparius was better to just stay where he's at and continue to be comfortable. That doesn't appear to be happening either. So Casparius, I think, can handle it. I just wonder, first you talk about it creates some roster issues when you have to build him up. I think that gives job security to someone like Justin Robleski or bringing back Landon Knack. They're going to have somebody to be a piggyback, like how they did Tony Gonsolin and Tyler Anderson at the beginning of the 2022 season. Kind of just have to pencil two guys in for the start that day if they're going to build Casparius up this way. I just don't really see it as being totally necessary. He's proven that he's pitching well enough that he deserves more innings, but I think you still can get him those more innings in the same way that he's been being used. I think this series against the Padres is a great example where if they were winning on Tuesday, he was the guy that could have pitched like the final 3 innings of that game in high leverage, and you still would have felt good turning to him there. And instead they pushed him back to start the Wednesday game. And like you said, he did fine. And I don't think he was at the level that he's been pitching at. He was a little below that, but there's no definite way to say that's because he was starting. I think he'll pitch the same way as a starter because that's what he's been for his entire career. But it's just going to be interesting to see how they do that build up. And at what point when guys start to get healthy, do they just decide that he's better going back to the swingman Swiss Army knife kind of role that he's been in and he's been excelling in?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. He can, like, obviously the argument is not like, can Ben Kasparius be a starter? Like, is he capable of being a really good starting pitcher? Nobody is, at least on this show, is arguing against that. The question is the work that it's going to require to build him up, the scheduling, the limits it's going to place on you from a roster construction perspective. Because to your point, the Dodgers want to have a 6-man rotation. Well, if you're piggybacking, that basically means you need 7 starters and 6 relievers in order to kind of make that work one way or another. Now, you could try and get creative, and maybe it's Knack that's up for one start, and you send him down for 4 days, and then Robleski comes up for the next one. Like, you can try and get creative, but the Dodgers are pretty limited on who they have available to even make those trips north and south from Oklahoma City. And so that's the tricky part. Now, the good news is by setting things up against the Padres like they did, Bruce, they've kind of already started this process pretty significantly, I would say, in the sense that, like, he already threw 4 innings. He already threw 50-something pitches. And so from now moving forward, if you're talking about a guy that can only give you 4 innings or 5 innings, he's already shown you he can do that. Now we've kind of we've crossed over the threshold where he is a starter. So that's why it's good news for me, because I think he's, to some degree, next start will be built up enough to give them 4+ innings, which I think is kind of the floor level of what you'd be looking for.
Yeah, I agree. He's not too far away. So the whole roster thing and how they do it isn't that big a concern. I just kind of wonder, like, is it going to be worth that extra effort and having to pencil him in? I think, like, I was perfectly fine with Landon Knack being in this rotation with the stage that it's in, and not to say those are punt games, because they're not. I think Landon Knack can have a competitive start and give the Dodgers a chance to win. But you look at, like, the way they handled it on Tuesday, where Matt Sauer was the bulk guy, and sure, if you looked at, like, that 6-game stretch, that might have been the bulk guy / starter with the lowest odds of a win. But then you're able to save a guy like Casparius for potentially the last 3 innings of that game if you're winning, or push him back to a higher leverage spot. I just think that not all innings are created equal in terms of value. And Ben Casparius has been so good. I want him pitching the highest leverage and most valuable innings. And I think that they've done a great job this year of utilizing him that way. And I just worry that penciling him into a starting rotation will create less equitable use of his talents.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. Bacon Tree has a super chat. Does Ben, in your opinion, need one more pitch as a starting pitcher?
I think the cutter makes him good enough against lefties. He used to throw a changeup and then ditched it. So I would imagine that there's a reason for that. That pitch was never among his best, and the cutter's really good. So his fastball, his 4-seam fastball, has taken a leap this year that has allowed him to blossom into this pitcher that he is now. And really, when you're a righty facing the lefties, he's got a good four-seam fastball now. The cutter is plus, or I even tagged it double plus in the preseason list. I think that cutter is great. And then his sweeper is still such a good pitch that it can play once in a while as a third offering against the lefties. So I think he's okay. The curveball, obviously, too, don't want to leave that out, is good in those left-handed matchups. So I don't think he needs one. And his arsenal currently has 4 above average pitches. So it's like I wouldn't want to cut down the percentages of those good pitches to throw in a crappy changeup.
Yeah. And it's worth pointing out, I got a chance to chat with him during spring training, and I had to go back. Like, I forget, Bruce, this guy started pitching full-time as a junior in college.
Yeah.
So, like, I remember him mentioning them, like, man, with River Ryan, that like, I remember that he's a hitter that became a pitcher. But Ben Kasparius, until he was a junior in college, was not a full-time pitcher. And if you look at the progression, like, even from 23 to 24, his fastball went up 1.5 miles. This season, it's up another 0.7. So in the last 18 months, his fastball is 2.2 miles an hour faster. This is a guy who's just scratching the surface in a lot of different ways. And yet they're going to need to build him up, because the other number I was looking at when I was looking at fastball velocity, his fastball was actually up. His average velocity on his fastball in this start was 0.7 miles an hour over his season average for fastball. His fastest pitch was 98.8. That was the last pitch he threw in the third. But if you look at the last 2 fastballs he threw in the game, they were 96.1 and 95.6. So that shows you a guy that might have been running out of gas a tiny bit at the end of this. But again, my view on Kasparius, long-term, he's going to be a starter. I think he's going to be a really, really good one. I think there's more room for growth. I do think it's fair to question, is this the best use of Ben Kasparius in 2025? And the good news, Bruce, is that if this might be temporary. If all those guys come back healthy, Kasparius is going to be in the mix come postseason time, and he might slide right back into that multi-inning high leverage relief role.
Yeah, there's certainly no issue with if they build him up and then they get lucky. I don't know if you want to describe it that way. Whatever it is, if everybody does get healthy and doesn't have everything go off the rails again, like it seems like it's always going to, then there's no issue to just slide Kasparius back to the role that he's been in. I think that there's a little apprehension for me here, not necessarily with what's best for the team right now, but I'm almost like clinging on to this role that he's been in because I've loved it so much. And this is something that I've been hoping the Dodgers would experiment with for a few years now, looking at guys like Kyle Hurt. Kasparius was one of them. I think that the future of the Dodgers and the future of pitching as a whole is going to include a lot of these like multi-inning, high leverage relievers where they're going to wind up at the end of the season with 150 innings pitched, even though they're not starting. And I think the Dodgers were kind of trailblazing that role with Kasparius this year. And so I'm a little hurt to see him leave that, but I think he'll get back to it. They'll have more guys to fill that kind of role too. And hopefully if the Dodgers wind up having to move him back to that means the rotation got healthy. So I hope that that's what winds up happening.
Yeah. 300 with the super chat. No to Jacob deGrom unless Tyler Glasnow needs a rehab buddy, as Bruce maybe put that slightly more politically correct, but yes, we don't need to be adding to the injured list with that one. So okay, let's do this. Let's do prospect corner, and then we'll get to some questions. We're gonna go a little longer. Thursday, no game tonight, but you wanted to talk about Eduardo Quintero, and yeah. I love this guy. If for one reason he was a catcher that now plays center field, you give me one sentence about a guy and you tell me that, I'll take it. For more context, 2023 international free agency signing, but was not a major guy, wasn't a top 50 guy in that class, didn't have a huge reported bonus or anything, but he's been awesome. So talk to us about Quintero.
I completely agree with you. He was a guy that when he was first signed, it was like, just a catcher that blended in with the rest of the class. And then midway through that Dominican Summer League season, it was like, who's this listed catcher who's playing center field and is lighting the world on fire? And he's really just been consistently good ever since. He was excellent that first year, was an all-star in the Dominican Summer League as a 17-year-old. Last year hit the Arizona Complex League and was great there too. One thing that I just saw an article was written on this by True Blue LA. Quintero and Yoandre Vargas have kind of risen through the system so far together, and they just win everywhere. They won the Dominican Summer League that first year. They won the Arizona Complex League last year, and now the Quakes are in first place in the Cal League this year. So Quintero's a winner, but aside from that, just on his personal profile, it's 5 tools that are all above average, potentially plus. So he's just toolsy as much as anybody in the organization, as much as anybody around baseball. I was doing some digging today because I was writing an article for Dodgers Digest and my regular prospect notes, and I just was seeing Quintero's numbers, seeing how remarkable they looked, and so was throwing in the qualifiers, all that stuff. He is the first teenager in single A since 2006, which is the earliest back that Fangraphs tracks. First teenager in single A since 2006 to have a weighted runs created plus above 150. He's way clearing that at 174 and at least 30 stolen bases. He's already at 33 and we're like 60 games in. So he's doing things that it is not an exaggeration to say guys have not done before. So take notice, because those two numbers don't even include the fact that he's a true center field defender with a plus arm. There is just everything you want here. The strikeout rate's up a little bit this year because I think he's swinging harder, but that whiff rate got cut down a bit in the last month. And in May, he slugged over 700. So that was kind of the last piece for him to become that full 5-tool super prospect who's going to be a top 50 guy around baseball by the end of the year, was to add some power. He's done that. Still a 19-year-old, and I think he's going to get to high A. So this is a guy that, like, if you're not fully familiar, get familiar, because we're going to be talking about the Josue de Paula, Zahir Hope, Mike Sirota, and Eduardo Quintero. Those are the 4 outfielders that are top 5 in the system by the time we hit midseason.
Well, and I was going to ask, because you started him, I believe he was 11th on your preseason rankings.
Yeah.
You mentioned Sirota, who was way down at 22. Mm-hmm. I mean, I imagine both these guys are top 10 guys, sort of, as you're looking ahead to your list.
At least okay. They're going to be top 7 for sure. They're the cream of the crop, and I think I fell victim to Quintero last year when he got up to single A. He sputtered a bit in the last month as an 18-year-old. I should not have bought into that, but I did just like a tiny bit. And so I dropped him like a spot, like the day before the list went live. But I regret that. He's been great this year, and he's really performing the best teenager in minor league baseball. That's Quintero, and there's not an argument for anybody else, really.
Crazy. And he's a 19-year-old that, again, was not a highly rated international free agent signing back in 2023. Love it. Love that stuff. Let's get to some questions, all caps questions in the chat. We will answer some of those. We got 5 or 6 more minutes here. Of course, they can be baseball related, or if on an off day you want to throw us a food question, or I know we've got a super chat we're going to get to here in a second from D Nation Life about just some other things going on. But let's get to some of this. Dodgers Hub, good question. Who are your favorite Dodgers players to interview? Or maybe we just rephrase this, Bruce. If you could interview a Dodgers player, I know both of you have been in contexts around, but if you could interview a Dodgers player, do you have a guy that you like hearing from or that you would like to talk to?
I would really love to interview Teoscar Hernandez, because I've never heard a bad word about the guy. And every media member that talks about him, just every teammate, every front office, it doesn't matter who you ask. It seems like there's never a bad answer about Teoscar Hernandez. I love the energy that he has, like his, I'll use a Gen Z word, his aura is just so positive all the time. I know they've highlighted it on the broadcast on Wednesday, but I pointed it out when I was watching live with my dad on when was that? I think that might have been Tuesday or Monday. I forget. One of the games in the Padres series, he struck out in a big spot, a moment that almost everybody would have been incredibly frustrated and went down to the clubhouse and broke something, whatever, made a big out. And then whoever was up, I think it was Smith after him, homered, and top step, without a doubt, he's throwing the seeds, smiling ear to ear. Like, that's the guy Teoscar is. So I would love to talk to him and be able to experience his joyful personality in person.
Derek wants to know, do you have a question that you would want to ask Teoscar Hernandez? Is it where that joy comes from, maybe?
I like to research my questions heavily, so this isn't that. So I'm thinking on the spot. Maybe I just ask him, what is it that allows you to bring he plays the game like he's a little leaguer who just loves being there all the time, and he loves his teammates, and he loves playing the game. And I'd want to ask him what it is in his past that gives him that sort of joyful outlook about the game and allows him to play through any bad things and just seem like he's enjoying himself all the time.
My answer is going to be very basic and very obvious. Clayton Kershaw. I've not gotten a chance to talk to him. Our paths have not crossed when I am in the clubhouse and have had those opportunities. And guys like Kershaw are kind of off limits unless they're talking to everybody, which he has not been when I've been down there. So, but yeah, I just, everything about Clayton Kershaw, and I kind of said this the other day, like the way he goes when we were talking about his response to what the Cardinals did. I'm like, the way he goes about his business, the way he does his business, how good he is, like in every level, he has been the quintessential stud, all-star, Hall of Famer for the Dodgers. And so I'm just a huge fan of Clayton Kershaw. That's the guy I'd want to talk to. Iori, I'm guessing we're going with Iori here, as some people pointed out. I don't think they fixed it, baiting back to the Roki conversation. Roki struggled for 2 months. He's missing arm side, StatCast says, a major classic arm drag sign. I have visual proof. I can send some proof that convinced Blake Harris. All I was saying was not, I shouldn't have said, I didn't mean that they fixed anything. I'm saying the Dodgers, if the Dodgers thought this was the problem, they would be working on it, and they would probably be working their way towards fixing it. And maybe they have failed to fix it. Maybe they have tried to fix it, and there's something that is preventing it. But again, I don't know anything about you. You might be an absolute expert on this type of thing and have an eye for it. I do not. So I tend to, from my seat, default to the Dodgers know what they're doing with these kind of guys. They clearly had a plan and a conversation with him in the meeting that convinced him that they knew what they thought they could try, and they had enough evidence to convince Roki that his camp thought the Dodgers were a good option. So we appreciate the super chat. And again, I'm not trying to diminish what you're saying. I can't break down the film at a level to talk about arm side drag in the way that you can. So apologies for that. Let's get to a few more. Don't Care 187. Bruce, is Bobby Miller done? He gave up like 1 million runs after his last start. I think it was 10, but that's a lot. So is Bobby Miller done?
10 million. I agree. It's 1 million runs. It's a really bad spot for Bobby Miller right now. I really don't have a solution. This has been going on more than a year now, that it just seems like that he's broken. And I really do not like talking about players that way. I try to avoid it, but there's really no beating around the bush here with Bobby Miller. It's been bad. He had a very brief point before this last start where he'd strung together a couple that looked better, but even the ones that look better, like he's not the Bobby Miller super prospect that came up as a rookie and was a really good contributor for the Dodgers. He's just lost that. And I really don't know exactly what it is. If it's a mental thing, it seems like that is where it's a leaning, that he's just broken mentally, but I don't want to just assign that without ever having talked to him or knowing that that's what it is. So it seems like there's a lot wrong. It's been a long time that they haven't been able to fix it, and that breeds a lot of concern for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, we got a bunch of good questions in here, so we're going to try and get to as many as we can. Sign stealing scandal. Why don't teams experiment with piggybacks more, i.e. 2 guys splitting the game? Benny Caps gives 3 innings. If he stays stretched to 4 or 5 once he's back in the pen, it's a full reset day. The idea that you basically say, okay, Kershaw and Ben Kasparius, go get us 9 innings somehow between the two of you, and the bullpen gets the rest that day. Why do you think that is not in vogue?
I think it's on the way, and I'd love to yap about this because I just was talking about Casparius and that role that I think he's started to have this year, and I think we'll get back to eventually. The Dodgers are the perfect team to be able to experiment with things like this, and I think that's the future of the game. We've seen more and more guys that not only with injuries and having to control innings, but guys that, especially the Dodgers target, that are just like super stuff, but maybe can't control it the best all the time. So many guys that are like, are they going to start? Are they going to be relievers? You can split it. And the vision that I have is a pitching staff that everybody who's capable of it, which the Dodgers have a lot of those, just fill a staff with guys that can go one time through the order. And that'll go from the starter all the way through the 7th inning. And then you can still have your traditional relievers that can close it out. But I think the Dodgers are perfectly positioned for that. And you can, they may only need 2-3 days rest. If they're going one time through the order, it would idealize that you're not having to face guys twice when all the batting averages go up and everything, when you've seen the guy already. I think that is something that's going to happen in the future. And I don't think it's that far off. And I'm really looking forward to it because I think the Dodgers are perfectly positioned to build a pitching staff that way.
And part of the reason they're perfectly positioned is because of the Ohtani rule and the fact that they're going to be able to carry an extra pitcher. Like I think the best answer I could come up with why teams don't experiment would be 2. One is teams do not have a glut of guys who can give them 3 innings. The Dodgers may have that problem in theory. Other teams are trying to get to 4 guys that can give them 3 innings or more. And the second thing is, it just ties up a lot of arms in your bullpen. If it's like, well, hold on, we need to save this guy for Wednesday and then this guy for Thursday. And then this guy for Friday, it's like, well, what do we have? 3 guys left that can pitch tonight, and our starter just went 3 innings. And now what do we do? So I think you've got to optimize, and you've kind of got to go all in on this strategy. And the Dodgers, because they can carry an extra pitcher. I don't know if you agree with this, Bruce, but I think to me that unlocks them to probably try some things in the next few years that other teams just don't have the luxury of trying.
For sure, that extra pitching spot helps a lot. And I want to clarify that I'm not saying that I think that it's a good idea to like ditch the traditional starting pitcher, because guys that are good enough to be good starting pitchers, like you want them to be pitching a lot and be a starting pitcher. This is the idea of like if you build a rotation, especially it would work in a time like this where the Dodgers are dealing with injuries and you don't want to have your 4th and 5th rotation spots going to a starter who you don't think is as good as your top guys. Then you could just designate, we're going to have like maybe 2 or 3 of the spots in the bullpen be these guys, and then give a couple of those starters that sort of role as well. And just plug it up that way. It would help give extra rest to those guys at the top of the rotation as you kind of sprinkle the one time through the order guys in there. This is all theoretical. I just think it's an interesting idea. And I think the Dodgers, especially with the way they develop pitching, they always have guys ready to do this. Right now, it's like Peter Hubeck. When Kyle Hurt gets back, I already mentioned him, I think has been perfect for this role for years. Ben Casparius currently is. And you have a lot of flexibility with it, that you can throw those guys into high leverage when they're playing the best. And if you have a guy that goes particularly deep in a start, then maybe you have a chance to mix it up and change the schedule and use those guys as piggybacks on the regular starters. There's a lot of ways to attack it, but I think that they're going to get to that point where they're going to have multiple Ben Casparius roles on the roster at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. James says, now that we have more evidence, can we officially call it a curse after the Cardinals have lost 5 straight since trolling Kershaw? I love it. Screw the Cardinals. Always team Kershaw on that one. We have so many good questions tonight, folks, that I'm apologizing in advance that we will not get to all of them. Let's go this one, GI, and then we'll thoughts on rushing so far. 53% strikeout rate, unsustainable. Are they better off with Fiducia as the number 2 backstop?
So obviously it hasn't been pretty, to me, when I've been watching Dalton Rushing, he doesn't look like himself right now. Like I think he's been pressing. I think he's been doing regular rookie things, and it's exaggerated by the fact that he's not getting very much playing time. So every time he looks up at the scoreboard as he's stepping to the plate and sees horrible numbers, he's only going to get a chance to fix those once every 3 or 4 days. And it's just kind of seems like a snowball. Dalton Rushing is much more talented than how he's playing right now, and I think that those numbers are going to regress back to positive. So I don't think that the Dodgers are in any space where they need to make a decision. Ultimately, the reason they brought him up is so that he can learn defensively and get accustomed to the room, working with the big league pitching staff, all those things that he's still doing regardless of what his strikeout rate is when he's in the game. So they're going to give him plenty of time. It's easy to think that, I don't know exactly, it's been a few weeks since he was called up. It's easy to feel like that's a much longer time than he's actually been on the field. So that 53% strikeout rate is not a very big sample size, despite how long he's been in the big league. So patience is the thing here. Fiducia's playing well in AAA, but right now he's just blocked because Dalton Rushing is the backup catcher, and that is permanent for now.
Yeah, I'm with you. And this would be his role in the postseason. So I guess you could optimistically spin this as, hey, he's got 4 months to try and figure out if he can be productive playing very rarely, because if he can, then that's going to be his role for this team in 2025.
And the Dodgers are used to having a backup catcher that provides nothing. So it's not like that they went from Austin Barnes tearing the cover off the ball when he got to play it. All of a sudden, the backup catcher spot, this is why I didn't think they were going to do this in the first place. Backup catchers do not impact your team's ability to win games in a full season very much. That's just flat out. That I don't think that it matters very much. So Dalton Rushing will have plenty of runway to try and figure this out at the big league level.
Hater Tot says, question, not a question. Thanks, Jeff, for putting up with us. Really enjoying the insight info from Bruce. So shout out to Bruce, the new member of our team over the last few weeks. You're killing it, Bruce. So keep it up.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Hater Tots.
Let's do one more baseball question. Kevin says, what playoff rotation, if healthy, gives you the most confidence to win a World Series again? When you think about this and you project out, to me, there's a clear 4 guys that, if healthy, what they could throw at other teams, it's pretty dominant. So for me, it's Yamamoto, Snell, Ohtani, Glasnow in some order. I would probably default to that order if everybody's healthy. But if you give me those 4 guys healthy into October, it would be hard for me to find a way that the Dodgers don't win the World Series. Now, the baseball playoffs are a crapshoot, but those four in that order, Bruce, would be my answer.
Yamamoto, Snell, Ohtani, Glasnow. Is that the same order that you? Yeah. So I agree. It's that same exact order for me. If they go into the playoffs with that rotation, not only is that going to be a pretty good chance of repeating, but also I think you'd have to look back and say, is this the best playoff rotation of all time?
Yeah. I remember it was the one year where the Phillies had like Halladay, Hamels, and I'm blanking on. There was one other guy that they have. Dang it. Somebody in the chat remind me. But they had three guys and they lost in the first round. I was like, oh my gosh, how's anybody going to score? Cliff Lee was the third. I was like, how's anybody going to score off these guys? And then they lost in the first round. So there you go.
That's baseball October for you.
Exactly. Okay, let's get to some fun ones. D Nation, thank you for the super chat a long time ago. One for later in the night. It's later. Do you guys have other hobbies? Board games, video games, hiking, trading card games, etc. Bruce, what are you into when you're not talking, writing, reading about Dodgers?
Yeah, so I'm going into my fourth year in college at Long Beach. So I play on the club baseball team here. So that takes up a lot of my time. I am going to be the president of it for this next year. So that's going to be a blast. And I love all my teammates there. It takes up a lot of my time. I play video games quite a bit. I'm into MLB The Show and different games as well, and like Star Wars. And really, I'm just a sports sicko. If there's any sports on, doesn't have to be baseball, but baseball is the first one. Really regularly on a daily basis, if I don't have anything specifically penciled in for that day, I wake up and I open up my sports app, The Score, and I just check what games are happening today. And sometimes it'll be if there's a White Sox versus Astros game that starts at 10 a.m., I'll turn that on. And then if there's tennis at noon, I'll turn that on. And it'll run all the way through the 7:10 Dodger game that there's sports on my screen all day.
I love it. I am not in school, but I do have 3 children. So that takes up a large majority of my time, and a wife. Shout out to my wife. But outside, I'm like you. It's all sports. I love fantasy sports. I do fantasy baseball.
Me too.
Dynasty fantasy football leagues. But I would say outside of that, I love playing golf. I'm not good at golf, but I enjoy playing whenever I can. But going to other sporting events. I have another side job where I help out with the soccer teams in Portland, the Timbers and the Thorns. So that's pretty fun for me. So yeah, I like to read a little bit, all sorts of stuff. So there you go. I do. Yeah. I used to play video games, but not so much anymore. Not for any reason other than that. It just, I don't have the time. Okay. Super chat. Back to baseball. LLM. Braves should sell. Would you trade for Chris Sale?
Oof. See, I think Snell has a better injury history than like we were talking about with DeGrom. So there's a little bit more safety there, but you're still talking about a very old starting pitcher. And it would just feel weird to trade with the Braves. I would not want to give the Braves top prospects. I think that if the Dodgers wind up trading for a starting pitcher, it would be an insurance policy. Somebody on an expiring deal that they pick up and say, if everything goes wrong and we completely run out of starting pitchers like it was last year, then at least there's this guy who can like be a third or fourth playoff starter and be fine. I don't think part of why they signed so many guys in the offseason, and we were going into spring training saying, if everybody's healthy, there's not enough spots. And obviously that didn't happen. But part of why they approached it that way is so that they don't have to go part with prospects at the deadline. So I think they've already got the main characters that they want. And if a trade happens, it'll be because they feel like they absolutely have to go pick up an insurance policy.
People want to know what position you play. Before you answer it, though, just based on hair alone, I feel like center field, shortstop, or second base are the 3 positions I'm going to guess.
I appreciate that. I'm a first baseman. I used to
Wow, that was not on my bingo card.
No, I played shortstop through my 9-year-old season of Little League. And then my 10-year-old year, I got drafted or whatever, how they assigned the teams. I was on a team with one of my good friends who was a true shortstop, and I moved over to first base because it made the most sense.
Are you tall?
I never left. I'm 6 foot, 6'1". Okay.
So taller than some of us, not as tall as Daniel. Daniel Starkin retains the title. Daniel's massive. He's like 6'4", 6'5". I don't know how tall he is, but He's a big guy. So you're 6'6'1". Okay.
Yeah, the guy who does color commentary with me at Cal State Long Beach, JD Beaudry, he's a cool 6'6". So any of our pictures together from this year, I always feel sort of awkward posting them because I'm like, everybody's gonna think I'm like 5'6" or something with the way that he.
Hey, easy, Bruce. Easy,
sorry.
Bruce.
Sorry.
Okay?
Sorry.
I'm not 5'6". I might be close. Let's just say it's worldwide average. Okay. If you take all the places, some places have shorter people than others. Worldwide, we're around average over here. Okay. So maybe on the high end of average, but easy there, Bruce. Easy. Okay. Let's get to we got a few fun questions here. Cole says, I'm old school, prefer lemon, orange, and fruit punch. What's your favorite flavor of Gatorade? I
like Glacier Ice the most. I don't drink Gatorade as much as I used to because the sugar is so high that I go for Propel or just here. I've got some just electrolyte packets. This is the way to go because you're not filling up with sugar. So that's my preference.
I'm with you. I would go fruit punch. But yes, somebody called me a boomer the other day, and a few minutes ago, I should say, and that's probably the same. I like vitamin water. Vitamin water feels like it's kind of more in line with how much sugar I can handle at once, although it's probably the same. It just tastes less sugary. So there you go. Dong wants to know, are you a fan of licorice ice cream? Fossil Man in SGV does it seasonally, I think.
I haven't had a lot of it. I think I maybe only once or twice in my life have had licorice ice cream, but I like it. And I'm a huge fan of black licorice. I've talked about that on the show before. I love black licorice. So all the derivatives of black licorice, I'm on board with.
Okay. Hawaiian Kira wants to know, it's summer. What ice cream, popsicle, or cold dessert are you having? I saw somebody say Dole Whip, and Dole Whip is freaking delicious. I don't know where I could find it anywhere near me, but if it was around me, I'd be all in on Dole Whip. So that would be my answer. What about you, Bruce?
I like, for the summer vibe, I like a sorbet ice cream that isn't as like milky when you're outside. I like that vibe. I'm into the fruitier ice cream. So like give me like a mango or a peach and those kind of flavors.
Got it. Yeah. I'd also like Chick-fil-A. Matt Moreno was texting me. They're doing these like, it's their vanilla ice cream, and you could blend it basically with soda, I think. And so you get one of those with root beer. I'm sure that sounds amazing. It's like basically a soda flavored milkshake.
Yeah, so you're skipping the steps of a root beer float.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just making it easy. So there you go. Wolf Mass Jack, Papa John's, Domino's, or Pizza Hut? What's your favorite?
Domino's is the easiest. I haven't had Papa John's very much, to be honest. This is a Domino's versus Pizza Hut question for me, and I think Pizza Hut's better, but Domino's usually is cheaper, so that'll be where I go.
Yeah, Domino's feels like it is perpetually easier to get, but I'm with you. In my mind, I like Pizza Hut pizza better. But I was at a place that had Domino's yesterday, and I smashed. I mean, they had those little Parmesan bites. They had sausage and pepperoni pizza, and it was just like smashing pizzas over here. So shout out to Domino's. Are you a thin crust, normal crust, or thick crust guy?
I like normal, and Domino's, the best thing they've got going is the little seasoning, whatever it is they put on the crust. Right. That helps. Blair Field has in their press box, they do every Long Beach State Sport does a promo of pizza where in between innings or at a timeout at the Walter Pyramid for basketball or volleyball, they give away a full pizza, and they always order a bunch of them and then send them to the press box at Blair. So even if it's a 2.5-hour-old pizza, I always would like to grab a slice on my way out, and it might be terrible, but it's like that Domino's isn't meant to be enjoyed like it's gourmet. That 2.5-hour-old Domino's in the press box feels like a good, authentic way to enjoy Domino's.
Yeah. I like this one. Ella Shiva says, Jeff, what's the best food or drink that's unique to Oregon? I was going to say Tillamook cheese, but that might just blow people's minds if I say Tillamook cheese, because that is from Oregon. Tillamook, Oregon. Shout out. Tillamook does great ice cream as well. I mean, we kind of invented the microbrew beer up here as well. We were kind of behind all the coffee stuff that's all over the place. A lot of our trends up here in Oregon, the world has just co-opted all around. So let me think. If I think of something that is unique to Oregon, I will get back to you on this one. But yeah, Tillamook cheese. For all the people that think I hate cheese, how's that for you? Doesn't Oregon have some sort of berry? There's lots of berries up here, but what is it? Huckleberry, or I don't know, Marionberry. I'm not a native Oregonian. I'm from LA, although I've now lived up here more years than I have in Southern California, which is a weird.
That's a big threshold.
Yeah. It's bizarre. So, folks, that'll do it for us. Holy smokes, we're way over the hour and a half mark. Bruce, thanks for being a good sport and sticking along. It was a great conversation. I lost track of time. So, folks, we appreciate all of you for joining us. Apple, Spotify, Google, you can find the podcast. Thanks to those listening there. Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Thanks for everybody joining us. I will be back on Sunday night with Anthony Witrato here to break down the end of that Giants series. And then we got another 4-game set with the Padres starting on Monday. That is Bruce. You can find him at bnicholas7 on social media. My name is Jeff Spiegel at Jeff Spiegel on social media as well. If you're new here, subscribe, ring the notification bell on the YouTube page. We're marching towards 100,000 subscribers and would love to have you a part of that. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone. As always, go Dodgers and still champs.